Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Katja and I'm passionate about history and historical crafts. In my last video I talked about the Finnish famine of 1867 to 1868 and how it connects to my own family history. Like most Finns back then, my ancestors probably survived on flour substitutes, and one of the most common was pine bark. Pine bark, pettu in Finnish, is the best known substitute for rye flour. It's actually been used for thousands of years, even during normal years in poorer households. But it wasn't the only option. People also used kala roots, lichen, nettles, and even straw. Of these, kala roots had the most energy. The problem, they are poisonous. Even after boiling and drying them to remove most of the toxins, they were still incredibly bitter. Eating them was really difficult. Lichen was another option, but it had to be soaked in lye just to make it edible. And even then, the taste was awful. And the worst part, we are not even sure if the human body can absorb the calories from lichen at all. Pettu actually had a lot going for it. First of all, it was well known and relatively safe, at least in small amounts. It could be collected year-round, and compared to other substitutes, it didn't need a lot of processing. On average, pettu has about 15 to 25% of energy content of rye flour. That's not much, but it was something. Nutritionally, it's rich in fiber, flavonoids and vitamins B1, B2 and C, as well as iron, magnesium and zinc. But there was a limit. Once you went over 30% pettu in your flour mix, it became really hard for the human body to digest. Because of the high fiber content, it made you feel full, but the sad truth is it didn't have nearly enough calories to actually sustain you. There are stories from the time saying that people who ate a lot of pettu developed a dark bluish skin tone and a very distinctive smell. In large amounts, pettu could cause bloating, intestinal blockage and even death. Pine bark bread was likely what my family ate during the famine. I wondered, what did it taste like? Determined to find out, I decided to make my own famine bread. Luckily, my parents own land in North Karelia with plenty of pine trees. I enlisted my dad's help and traveled back home. We weren't sure if our experiment would work. Online instructions varied on which pine trees to use. Some recommended trees over 70 years old, while others suggested younger ones. All agreed that the bark separates most easily from the edible layer in early summer, but it was September. Still, I knew that during desperate times people would strip trees even in midwinter. After selecting a tree, my dad felled it. With the tree in manageable pieces, we searched for pettu, the edible inner bark.
Okei, tämä.
Se mikä on justiinsa siinä. Olisiko sen siitä? Niin on se valakkee siinä. No toi on jo puuta. Sitä saa toi valakkee kerros siitä. Siinä.
Onko tämä just?
Alkaa se olla, joo. Tuotahan me haluttaa. We first remove the outer brown bark to reveal the moist, white layer underneath. This layer, which transports water and nutrients off the tree, is typically easy to separate in spring. In autumn, however, we had to carefully pry it off with our knives. The rest of the wood is not going to waste, but it's going to be used as firewood. Then we had a very well-deserved coffee break with delicious homemade buns. After that, my mom took me to find another source of food that was both recommended and used during the famine, and it is much more delicious than eating pine bark.
Ja täällä itse maakko on tasasta. Ei ole louhittua. Täällä voi jopa löytää jotkut siellä.
Siellä on. The white pettu quickly darkens and becomes sticky. To eliminate stomach irritating tannins, we needed to roast it briefly. Yeah, is my pettu. And it looks like this. I unfortunately don't have any grinding stones, but I think I know a way how to make this into flour. And this is not very historical, but it should work. Let's start making famine bread. I have my pettu pine flour here, and then I'm using rye flour, which has the starter included. It comes in a bag like that, but you probably won't find this outside Finland. I also need warm water and yeast. So we start by taking our water. It should be about 37 degrees so that the yeast works. And then we'll take quarter of a packet of yeast, that is 12.5 grams. And you just then I take my pettu and mix it in with my rye flour. I have measured 10% of pettu to go with this flour. In the hard famine times you could have like even half of this, but I'm not going to break my stomach by eating bread that is half made out of pine. Now the dough is ready and I can leave it to rise. The dough has risen nicely and now I can turn it into a bread. In eastern Finland, rye bread is traditionally baked into loaves, but in the west a flatter bread is preferred. The flat bread is baked with a hole in the middle, which can be then used to hang the bread to dry. This way the bread can last for months. I didn't know how well the bread could rise with pettu, so I decided to make a Western style bread. I left the bread to rise for a while and now I can finally bake it. Just look at this. Okay, let's try it. Actually, not bad. I can't really taste the pine that much. I wonder if it's stronger when this is cold or the next day. But right now, this is just delicious rye bread. Let's see if we can find other people to test this. Your honest opinion of pettuleipä?
It's just bread.
Just bread.
It's bread.
Okay.
Right, yummy.
Miten mä leikkaan?
Siinä on se veitsi.
Näyttää hyviltä muuten. Aika ei kyllä maistu se, että se on 10% puuta. No, jos sulla on jauhoja 19 kuukaudeksi, niin käyttämällä pettua sulla on 18 kuukaudeksi.
Now, if 10% pine bread was quite alright to eat, what about 30 or 50? I was curious to find out, but this time I had helpers. I took part in a harvest festival and decided to bring my project along, hoping that the reenactors would find it interesting. Together we made more bread with 10%, 30% and 50% pettu. With my warnings of taste it, but don't eat too much, I waited for comments.
No niin, mä en ole vielä maistanut.
Joo.
Maistuuko nää ruoalta?
Tää on niinku tukkia.
Tää 10% menee ihan leipänä.
Joo.
My opinion, the 10% pine bread was completely edible and you could barely notice the pine. At 30%, the pine taste came through strongly, but you could definitely eat the bread if you were hungry. The 50% pine was strange. It didn't really taste like bread anymore. I can understand why people ate it when they were starving, but it hardly felt like food. Despite my love of history, I'm honestly glad to live in the present, where food is plentiful and my survival doesn't depend on tiny changes in the weather. Still, this was a really interesting dive into the past, and I learned a lot. And one last thing. Did you know you've probably eaten pettu too? Well, not pine bark exactly, but cinnamon actually comes from the inner bark of the cinnamon tree. So, in a way, you have eaten tree bark. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel to stay updated. And if you'd like to support my work, I have a Ko-fi page where you can make a donation. With that, I say farewell for now, and see you again soon in another video. Bye!